I know, Ronan, you were minting some shit late last night, trying to send me the alpha, trying to make me some money.
Yeah, man. So the last couple of days, like I don't know, like I came back from NFT NYC, and I think like a lot of people felt really good about like the fact that hey, you know what, like we're gonna be all right. Like the spirit is there. People are really they really are building. I talked to a lot of people that were doing a lot of really cool shit and taking the technology forward. Right. So it was inspiring. And so I came home and I don't know, it was, I guess not last night, but the night before, man, I could not sleep to save my life. So I spent the next 24 hours basically degenning. And the ones that like I kind of jumped into were these like the derivatives of moonbirds, right? Like, or these mixed ones, right? So you had Moonrunners is a big one most people know about that popped really hard. I think it was like Saturday or Sunday night. Moonturtlez was one that popped super hard last night. And then Moonpepes launched last night and has done really well overnight. I think it's kind of, the floor is kind of dipping a little bit at the moment, but this is a tweet I put together last night, just kind of my review. And I think that this was kind of a fun conversation for us to talk about because it was like 24 hours in the life of like a degen, right? Like I had my second window pulled up all day yesterday, watching charts, watching what people were buying, like, seeing what people were minting. These are just like some that I picked up last night of the Pepes that I thought were really cool. The art was all done by one guy, right? So it's like, how did I decide to jump into these things? Well, Moonrunners, obviously, like that had started to make a run. A lot of people were talking about it. I started checking out it has all of the Goblin Town vibes. They've really leaned into this storytelling, but also they actually have a pretty cool smart contract in that they've coded it to where the smart contract will call what's called their moon phases, and so at specific times, I think like once a month or something, the moon phase changes. So the first moon phase change is actually tonight. I think it's like 10:22 or something p.m. And we don't have any idea what happens, but it's like an automatic call that the contract makes. Someone who understands contracts, I'm sure, could jump in there and give you a little more detail about what could take place. But it's one of those things where this is something that we haven't seen before. It's calling information from their metadata and should have an update. So that's kind of like, hey, let me jump into this, see what it's about. Last night they held a Twitter space that the main account basically just played like wolf sounds for a while, and like people were kind of like howling and shit. Is the Goblin Town vibe, right? Except for at one point you start hearing this like jarbled like noise, right? And I'm like, holy shit, that's like a message, right? And it took the people on stage a couple of times hearing it in the background as they were like howling and chatting and stuff to realize like, oh wait a minute, there's a message being played. And we spent the next 2 hours decoding messages, like these audio messages. And like we were asking the main account, you had to ask like the right messages. And as that took place over the course of those 2 hours, they were tweeting from the main account who killed a character in the lore. So these are things that like really like draw you in, get a community really ramped up, and I think make for really fun experiences. So that's kind of like why I jumped into that.
So I see 3 moon derivatives here right up on my
Dude,
screen. Are you saying that you made money from each of these mints here? Because the last time
all
I made
three.
money on a mint is like, it's been a minute. Are you?
Yeah, you just like we talk about a lot, right? Like you have to decide what you're gonna do from the beginning. Moonrunners, I knew had the possibility to like really pop. I think what is going to be the precipice is going to be tonight. Like, I think it'll probably like continue to go up until that moon phase. And if the moon phase, if that mechanic is something that the community assumes is lame or doesn't really get people excited, I see the floor absolutely tanking. Moonturtlez was one that somebody shared with me. It was like 0.03 or something, I think, when I was shared. I bought a bunch, and then I saw that like this thing doesn't have any legs, right? So I actually was halfway through dumping it when I posted this tweet. And then the Moonpepes was one that I saw. I was like, okay, this is really cool. The art's really cool. He didn't do a shit ton. There's 4,200, which is a good number. I went into the traits. He did some really cool, like tons of traits. So there's actually a lot of traits that are really low rarity. And so the art's cool, the animations are cool. That's one of them in the background. He's wearing like a GM like beanie, you know what I mean? He's obviously not having a good morning. So like it's just like vibes, right? Like I got one that's like a GM hat with a GM background. He's a skelly with a cool cut. Like it feels good. And then when I read that like it was made by one guy, one artist, he did all of the art, he did all of the animation, all of it by himself, testing everything. And then he launched this thing. It's got story. Right. So, you and I, Q, used to talk about this a lot back in the day when, before people were just minting for shits and giggles, that, story can really propel a project. Right. Like if you have a good story to tell, I mean, in the early days, 2.5 years ago, man, I watched someone punch a hole in the wall because they were angry, hang a frame around it, take a picture and sell that NFT for almost $7,000. Why? Because he had a story, because he talked about the emotions he was feeling in the moment that he punched the wall, why he thought about adding the frame, and he built this thing around it. Right. So with that, it was like, okay, I see this artist being one dude, people getting into that, vibing with the art. It's really cool. It's animated. So yeah, so that's kind of why I jumped in. I've been holding. It went from when I posted that tweet, it was 0.06. I think when I shared it with you, I think it went to 0.24. It was 0.22 this morning when I woke up about 7:30. I think it's probably about 0.1 or something now. But
yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to the chat. They've got some comments rolling through. Carter saying, can't wait to look back a year from now and see what percentage of derivative projects are still around. And then Marty McFly's says just kind of the reasoning behind why some of these floors are flying in this environment is because people are bored, really. So I agree with you, though. Like if you can tell an actual story and it not just be, hey, we got something on our roadmap, or it's like just not happening, I think you can kind of set yourself apart by doing little small things like telling that narrative.